I'm Wendy from Shiny Happy World, and in this video I'm going to show you how to assemble just one of the birds from the Chirp Mix and Match applique pattern. But you can use that same method to applique all of the birds in the pattern. It comes with 14 different birds, and then you can also mix and match all of those pieces between birds to make a ton more different birds, however many you can imagine, by mixing and matching all of the parts. Here's how to make him. Okay, in this video I'm going to show you how to assemble one of the bird blocks if you are not using a light box. So I've got all of my pieces cut out and prepped and ready to go. That means I printed the pattern onto the paper side of paper-backed fusible adhesive. I use Heat and Bond Light for all of my quilts. I roughly cut out the pieces. I left a little bit of extra all the way around. Fused them to the back side of the fabric, and then I cut them out on the clean lines, on the solid lines. I did a nice clean cut. All of these dotted lines are placement guides. You can ignore those. You can't ignore those because you are not using a light box. You need to transfer those to the fabric side of each piece. And you can do that by just holding it up in a window. If you hold it up into a window, these lines are going to show through the front of the fabric, and you can trace them onto the fabric side, and you are good to go. So the eyelashes are optional, but one thing that I wanted to show you with this bird, let me show you the placement guide. So this is what the finished bird is going to look like. I created the head and the body with a dotted line in there so that you could make a contrasting colored head if you want to. So for that, if you want to make the entire bird one color, go ahead and ignore that dashed line and just cut that piece out as one very long skinny oval. But if you want to, you can cut the head out separately. So you'll have, while this is a paper piece, you're going to cut on that line and get two separate pieces. So I cut the body out of the brown and the head out of this coral color. Again, just an option. You can do that whichever way you like, but I chose to have a contrasting head. So here we go, ready to put the pieces together. So we're going to start with the body, and I'm just going to place that kind of centered in this block. And this is a tall, skinny bird. You could actually probably fit him in a half block if you wanted to, just to mix things up a little bit on your quilt. So one thing that you want to be aware of is that you don't want to butt these up against each other now. So you want to have a little bit of an overlap so that it will hold up. You don't want to have any fraying on that seam between the head and the neck. So I just overlapped the head just a little bit. Now I'm going to put his tail in. And there is a line here, one of those placement guides that I transferred, and I'm just going to tuck this piece under the body until that placement guide is covered, and then I know that I have a good amount of overlap. And I'm actually going to slide that down just a bit. And I'm going to shift this whole thing over just a hair. So now I need to re-overlap this. That's okay. All right, now let's go ahead and put his beak in there and make sure that we've got it well centered from left to right. Again, I'm going to tuck it until that line is covered. And you can use the placement guide to show you where on here, but honestly, you can get a lot of different looks just by moving that beak up and down a little bit. So don't feel like you have to do exactly what I did in the pattern. And you know what? I'm actually going to tuck the head behind the body because the body is a smidge wider. That'll work. All right, now I have a wing. And I'm just going to place that covering up those lines. And we have an eye. And then we have 3 little crest feathers. And on the placement guide, it shows 3, 4, 5. That's the order that they go in. Again, do not feel obligated to match exactly to the placement guide. This is technically a mix and match pattern, so you can play around with it. You can add more feathers, fewer feathers. You could do just one feather. You could do it tipped way forward, kind of the way a quail has that little dooley bobber that hits on the front. Just play around with it and have fun. But I'm going to do 3 little crests up here. There we go. All right. I'm going to take this over to my ironing board and fuse all of the pieces in place. Just follow the directions on whatever brand of fusible adhesive you are using. Then I will bring it to my sewing machine and I'm going to do the outline stitching to secure everything. I'm also going to add his little legs at the bottom, and I'm just going to do some straight stitching for that, and I will show you that. The pattern has a link to a tutorial showing how you can transfer those, an easy way to transfer those to your background block if you want to be really precise about it. Otherwise, you really can just eyeball it. But then I'll bring it back here and show you the finished block and also show you a couple of other birds that I made. Okay, here is one finished bird from the pattern, but like I said, there are 14 specific patterns specific birds in the Chirp pattern. So when I say specific birds, I mean you get a placement guide showing the exact layout of 14 of the birds. So here are those first 14. Here's one. Here's another one. So this is bird number 3 and 4. So you'll see some of them have open beaks, some of them have closed beaks. Here's bird number 5. Some of them are standing facing forward. Bird 6, some of them have eyelashes. Bird 7, they have different tail shapes. Bird 8, different kinds of wings. Bird 9, here's another front-facing bird. Bird 10, this one has a stripe on his neck that you can add stripes other places. Bird 11, another forward-facing bird. Bird 12, which has a very fancy tail. Bird 13 has a crest. And bird 14 has a really, really fun little crest on the top of his head too. So those are the 14 birds that you can easily make with the pattern because you have the exact instructions there. But once you make those, you may want to make some more birds. And so I'm going to show you just 4 examples of birds that you can make by mixing and matching the pieces from all of these different birds. So on this one, I used a beak pattern from one of the birds to create some little feathers on his breast, and I also made his wings spreading out. He has 2 matching wings, so that works really well for any of the front-facing birds, and he has that fun crest. This one also has the fun crest, and I gave her just 2 of the 3 fancy tail pieces from one of the smaller, wider birds. This one, remember I showed you that one with the neck stripe? Here I used that stripe on the tail. And here's the last one, and this shows you that I just tipped that bird forward so he can be looking down. Maybe he's looking for his next meal. I also made some worm blocks that are going to go with this pattern so that you could put a worm block in the next block over and have this guy looking at the worm. So anyway, that's just 4 examples of additional blocks that you can make, additional birds that you can make by mixing and matching the pieces from the original pattern. Again, this is the Chirp quilt pattern. It's available at Shiny Happy World. I'm Wendy, and I will see you next time.